Welcome back, y'all. Even got the shoulders.
I know. You got a nice little honky tonk vibe going on.
I love.
You can honky tonk.
I can honky.
Yeah,
Although you can't move your butt, so it's a little weird.
that's all this honky tonk. I don't know. You didn't grow up where I grew up. There's plenty of butt movement going on.
We should go dancing next time we're in South Carolina.
I've turned you down so many times for that.
I know. And yet I've gotten you on the dance floor once.
What time?
It shall happen again.
In Atlantic City. The cursed place I've ever been.
Oh, it's a story for another time, y'all. Oh my gosh. Okay, I have a great question.
Let's rock and roll.
Did I remember my question? Who is the person that you fed into, or you don't have to say their name, but obviously you can kind of think about it. Who is the person that you fed into that is now making the biggest impact, your best ROI in leadership?
It's a great question. The first person that comes to mind, hopefully there's several. I'm going to think about this more later. But I hired a junior developer for my first company that he was a really smart guy, but honestly kind of took a gamble, I guess, a little bit. He was working for this big company and this startup. Met him through another person. Seemed like a good culture fit, young guy, and didn't matter. I was young. He was probably older than me, honestly, but I was 22 at the time, 21, something like that.
He was junior in his role.
And he was young. He was in his 20s. But yeah, long story short, we worked and built that company up, and then he ended up starting his own company. He was the CTO from a founder role and exited that company. I forget who acquired it, but it was a big, I forget the specifics. We didn't stay super in touch, but I found out about that from LinkedIn, another one of our investors or something. But yeah, went on to leverage that experience to start his own company and exited his company by the time he was, in his early 30s. So yeah, it was cool. He was working for a dead end kind of corporate, real crappy kind of dev job for some no name, big corporation, something. And he was just punching a time clock, sitting in a cubicle. And he came and worked for us, built up our technology. Ended up taking on more of a CTO role. He progressed on our team, and leveraged that to do his own thing and had a really successful exit. So I probably had some role in that.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah,
that's great, and it brings us to our topic of how to reclaim your time and focus on the few to build the many, or who build the many. And I love this concept. This is something that we have studied a lot, and the impact that comes from really honing in your time and being able to focus on just your main people versus everything. My favorite, if you focus on all the things, you will do nothing. And if you focus on one thing, you will actually do it, and there'll be results.
You'll do everything.
You'll accomplish everything. So I think that that's true. That concept is true for this conversation and how we're building really great leaders. Focus on their top 3 leaders, and they make sure their top 3 leaders they feed everything into, that they know they pass that knowledge and that wisdom, and they receive back based on our last conversation of support. And then they really focus on building through their 12 core builders. So let's hop into this conversation. What is the freaking time trap that stops us from doing this?
It's a great way to put it. The time trap, I hadn't thought about it that way, but it totally is. And we've, just to kind of set the stage or give some more context, that's really why we're talking about this, is when you invest energy, AKA time, into the wrong people, it caps your potential. because what that means is that you're not investing in the right relationships, whether they are existing or you need to go out and find them. You have a finite amount of energy. You have X amount of time in your day, week, month, year, whatever, allocated for those connections. And so when you're pouring in to the wrong people, or people who don't deserve or shouldn't get that amount of kind of time and energy allocation, it dramatically limits your potential. It caps what you're trying to do.
People or tasks?
Sure. Yeah, totally.
Because I think it's both.
Yeah, you're right.
And Harvard Business says that 70%, or that the most effective leaders focus 70% of their time on developing key leaders, not managing details. That was from Harvard Business. And that changes the game on how we think about things. We're not here as top leaders to focus on tasks or the wrong people, to your point. We're here to focus on key leaders and making that really strong.
Yeah. Yeah, the compelling statistic is most leaders spend 80% of their time on the wrong people and tasks. And the cost of that is trying to lead everyone equally. And this is what happens. I want you to see if you recognize yourself in any of these key points. You feel overwhelmed. Your top people don't get enough of your time. So you're spread too thin and you're actually not investing the time that you would like into your key and core leadership. And your team stays dependent instead of stepping up. So they're waiting for you to hand down information. They're not autonomous. More importantly, and we've talked about this on the last podcast as well, it's actually been a recurring theme the last several podcasts, is that like true ownership that should accompany autonomy. So if you feel like you're just handing down stuff and they're not really like stepping up and stepping into their role as leaders, those are good identifiers to know whether or not you are kind of stuck in that time allocation that is not appropriate. You're pouring into the wrong people. And so the shift here is that we need to shift from leading everyone to leading the right ones. Like you said, 70% of their time should be spent developing key leaders. So if you're like bogged down, stuck in tasks, the list goes on. If you recognize yourself in any of those points that I just gave, it's a good indication that it's time to make a shift, that you're pouring into the wrong people. Again, to bring it back, we have what we call your ripple of influence. It's an exercise that we've done with lots of people. Massively impactful. We actually just did it at our last service hub, which was super cool to share that exercise.
People were mind blown.
They really were.
Like
in real time, like within the 5 minutes that we started, they were like, holy shit. Mind blown specifically because it helps you really quickly recognize that we are probably not spending our time pouring into the right people, specifically the 3 and the 12. So the 3 are your like ride or die. The 12 is right after that. Those are what we call your builders. And so how do we focus on leading the right people? So we know like the goal is that we need our 3 and our 12 tight. We need to put most of our energy into those people. Instead of spreading ourselves too thin, what should we focus on?
Yeah, so we call this the 3 to 12 rule. We make it really simple. So your core 3, you should spend your most time developing them, coaching them in accomplishing your mission and pushing that mission forward. So they should be direct extensions of you. And that's why those relationships are mutually beneficial, because they actually are carrying out your mission and supporting your mission. And that specifically in core leadership. And if you're at the top, if you're a CEO, or even within your household, if you are a leader there, you should be spending most of your time on that. So challenging them, coaching them, and developing them into being higher leaders that are in service of your mission. Your top 12, these are your implementers. These are your problem solvers and your culture creators. So they go get things done. They build those bridges to leadership into the larger team or your clients. Those are going to be your key builders for your organization. They should have aligned core values and they should be still very much in service of your mission. And you have to remember that if you are building like this, your team is building like this. So they also have the 3 to 12 rule and they're utilizing that. And so when we build like this, it literally starts a really defined ripple. So, one of the key insights here is when you invest your top 15 of your time into these people rather than everyone else, you're going to get 100% of your time back. And so when that happens, you're going to just get so much time back because you're not going to be focusing on too many things, and you're actually going to have defined roles and responsibilities. The military actually follows this model when we look at how they're structured. Commanders and squad, they actually have trust and efficiency and clarity within their leadership, and that's why it works. You're literally signing people up to go like lose their lives for a cause sometimes they're not really truly connected to when they get into the service, and it works. Like that type of leadership in any organization will change the game, and it changes the game for us. So yeah, let's talk about directly how do you get your time back, because this is the core piece, because every leader we talk to always says, I'm like, what do you need? What's the magic? More time. It's either more time, more money. And I'm like, you can't say either one of those things. What is it? It's always more time and more money.
Yeah.
So let's talk about that directly.
Yeah. This is the biggest piece that became immediately evident when we were doing this in person at our service hub community, was that when we started to map this out, people were like, oh my God, I'm spending way too much time with people way too far outside of my 3 and my 12. So this is a pretty prolific issue, and we're all guilty of it. So how do we actually start to shift? First thing, audit your time. Where's most of your leadership energy going? If you're spending the majority of your time in communication, pouring into people outside of those 3 and 12. So 15 people. So I want you to name the 15. If you're spending the majority of your energy outside of those 15, then now it's time to make some real decisions, right? So it can be very simple in terms of time audit. Look at your calendar. If you're not spending most of your time with those 15 people, it's time to make some shifts. Also, like, are you coaching leaders or are you managing their problems? So there's a communication kind of tweak here, a nuance where what are you actually talking about? Are you solving their problems, or are you actually helping them step into leadership? So time audit, first and foremost, just figure out where your time's going so that you can backtrack and back into solving that. Go all in on your 3 and your 12. So now you have to do something different, right? So you're going to recognize, I promise you, that this isn't 100%, and you're spending some time with people that you are not going to support you, or not going to help you be the leader that you want to create, the legacy that you want to build. Now you have to do something different. So you got to go all in now on the 3 and the 12. Tactically, meet weekly with your 3, bi-weekly with your 12. Make sure that there's some consistency here and you have that represented on your calendar. Like I always say, like, show me your calendar and I'll show you what you prioritize. And I think there's no truer example of that than how you spend your time with these individuals. The third one is shifting from control to ownership. So leaders set expectations, not micromanage. This is a big one. Again, if you have to clean up behind them, if they're asking you to solve their problems, if you're not having true leadership discussions that are in alignment with an established mission, vision, and values, then that's not a leadership conversation. That's a management conversation. Those are wildly different things. So shift from that control, that micromanaging, to ownership. Make sure you're spending most of your time in ownership-based conversations, not micromanaging conversations. And then lastly, create feedback and accountability. So high ownership cultures thrive on feedback. People want to know how they can be better because they're trying to step into their full potential. They're trying to grow. They understand that on the other side of friction is growth. They're okay with that. Tell me what I did wrong. I'm okay with that friction because I know it's going to create the results that I want. It's going to create an opportunity for me to step up and step into leadership. If you're having conversations with people that don't value that feedback or don't handle it well, that's the first sign, right? That's actually a very clear indicator that, if you have a culture or team, or you're spending time, again, on conversations with people that don't want or don't receive feedback well, you need some new people. Right? Leaders want feedback because leaders are growth oriented and they're focused on the extending the mission, vision, and building that legacy, not like, didn't I do it right? Right? They're focused on much larger, bigger picture things. So key mindset shift here for those 4 points, just to know that your job isn't to manage every problem, it's to develop leaders who solve problems with you. We've talked about support as well on a previous podcast. It all starts to build on itself, but you're not here to solve every problem. When those 3 and 12 are tight, those 15 people around you are the people that they are supposed to be. It really starts to amplify your bandwidth too, and so you're not stuck in the weeds solving problems. You're actually amplifying your impact. So take us home.
Leadership challenge.
No, I love it. I love this new addition.
It happened very organically.
I know.
Okay, so I want to challenge you. Who are your top 3 core leaders and your 12 builders? So ask yourself that, and get really clear. And if you hear that question like, this sucks, you're not the only one, and you need to get clear on this, because this is what's going to change everything. And then the second question I have for you is, what low value task can you stop doing this week to invest in those 3 and 12? How can you actually invest in the 3 to 12 role? And finally, the best leaders don't do more. They multiply their impact by investing in the right people. So make sure that you're spending your time investing in the right people, and then they will make the impact that's that next ring out. So get out of the task, get out of the nitty gritty, focus on the few so that you can allow them to go attract the many.
Like we said, we did this exercise at our Service Hub event. It was incredible. We do lots of